Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94, back with another reaction video. So let me finna react to 25 minutes of wrestlers who got into real fights backstage. This is by Wrestling Flashback. Shout out to them because they always let people react to their content, unlike some people. I forgot their name, but fuck them. They gave me a goddamn strike back in January. Fuck you. So yeah, man, without further ado, man, shout out to let's get right into this, man. Wrestling Flashback. Let's get it.
1, 2.
Is this on?
1, 2. Is this on?
In this video, we'll delve into some of the most notorious real-life wrestling altercations that have occurred behind the scenes, shedding light on the stories and tensions that led to these dramatic moments. Special thanks to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's video. More about them later. During a Raw taping on April 7, 2003, Goldberg criticized Jericho's performance in a main event match where Jericho teamed with Triple H against Shawn Michaels and Booker T. Given their past history and Jericho's rise in WWE, this criticism didn't sit well with him. Jericho viewed Goldberg's comments as unjust, especially considering Goldberg's past refusal to work with him in WCW. This led to Jericho confronting Goldberg backstage. The situation quickly escalated into a physical altercation. According to Jericho, the altercation unfolded when Goldberg charged at him backstage, placing his hand on Jericho's throat and screaming in his face. Anticipating the move, Jericho managed to put Goldberg on the ground and lock him in a legitimate front face lock. Despite the size difference, Jericho's grappling skills allowed him to control Goldberg. The scuffle continued until other wrestlers and officials intervened to separate the two.
I'm not the toughest guy in town, but you know where I come from, if you put your hand on somebody's throat, you gotta fucking do something about it. So I put him in a front face lock, and I took him down. I took him to the ground. And Goldberg never punched me; he just grabbed my hair.
I walked in just as Jericho was applying the front face lock. The other guy passes out.
During the WWF's New Generation era in the mid-1990s, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart were embroiled in a fierce professional rivalry, fueled by their aspirations to dominate as the top stars in the company. This intense competition spilled over from their on-screen personas, where they often blurred the lines between fiction and reality to amplify their ongoing feud. However, tensions reached a boiling point when Michaels made a pointed remark about Hart enjoying sunny days.
Even though lately you've had some sunny days, my friend.
Implying Hart's involvement in an extramarital affair with WWF diva at the time, Tammy Sunny Sitch. The comment struck a personal nerve with Hart, who viewed it as a direct assault on his marriage and personal integrity. This led to a backstage confrontation at a Raw taping in June 1997, where Hart confronted Michaels to address the disrespectful insinuation. As emotions flared, the confrontation escalated into a physical altercation, with Hart delivering punches and even pulling out a clump of Michaels' hair. WWE officials, including Jerry Briscoe, Pat Patterson, and other wrestlers, intervened swiftly to prevent the situation from escalating further.
So I just walked up to Shawn and I just pushed him right against the wall. So I just grabbed Shawn by the hair, by the right here and right here.
Following the incident, both Hart and Michaels opted not to appear on the scheduled show, leaving a tense atmosphere behind the scenes. Michaels, feeling disrespected and unsafe in the workplace, allegedly threatened legal action if he wasn't released from his WWE contract, citing the hostile environment. In 1993, a violent altercation erupted between Sid Vicious and Arn Anderson after a wrestling show in Blackburn, England. The trouble began in a bar where wrestlers, including Steve Austin, discussed their financial woes and WCW's poor performance. Tempers flared when Sid criticized Ric Flair, prompting Anderson, a close friend of Flair, to argue back.
It's always brought up there what was wrong with our territory. And if we had great talent, it's just the people weren't coming out to the house shows. I said, well, the problem here is that Flair won't step aside, or not step aside, but just ease to the side and let a few other guys come in and do some things, and that's really what started the argument.
Sid then threw a beer bottle, causing everyone to leave the bar. Back at the hotel, Sid, armed with a chair leg, confronted Anderson. Sid struck Anderson, leading to a bloody brawl where Anderson attempted to stab Sid with scissors. Sid managed to take the scissors and stabbed Anderson 20 to 30 times.
Oh my God.
The door open, and I turn around and he starts going after me. He comes on to me, he gets it close. I don't really realize it. That's when he stabs me in the stomach. When he does, I just, one time, he drops. I got stabbed 3 times here in my face and once here. Two Cold Scorpio said, I guess it was him, he said, hey man, you're killing dude. And I got armed by the back of the neck and I'm stabbing him everywhere.
According to Two Cold Scorpio, who witnessed the fight, the hallway was covered in blood, and
Oh
Sid was
my
repeatedly
God.
kicking and stabbing Anderson. Scorpio intervened
Call
and
the
stopped the
cops.
fight.
So it wasn't for me breaking up the fight between those two guys.
Call the
I was
cops.
the one who broke
What
them
the
up.
hell?
Yeah, I'm the one who went to the hospital with them. Well, I put it like this and stuff. If I wasn't there, Sid or Arn Anderson probably wouldn't be here today.
Both wrestlers were hospitalized, Sid with 4 stab wounds and Anderson with over 20. They were kept separated and sent back to the US on different flights. As a result, Sid was fired from WCW and Anderson was suspended. Despite the brutal incident, Sid later apologized to Anderson, and the two are reportedly on good terms now. This fight remains one of the most notorious brawls in pro wrestling history. Big Show is big enough to the point that it seems inconceivable for anyone to consider physically confronting the giant. However, this very fact might have played right into Steve Blackman's hands, as he managed to topple the 500-pound behemoth with a single technique. According to Teddy Long, the incident occurred when Steve Blackman was lying on the floor, using his back bag as a pillow while wrestling. The 7-foot, 500-pound Big Show was standing over him, and Blackman politely asked him to move over a bit. However, Big Show decided to ignore Blackman's request. Unfazed by Show's disregard, Blackman used his martial arts expertise to handle the situation without even getting up from his lying position. Blackman hooked both of Big Show's feet and executed a scissor sweep, a technique that involves using the legs to trip an opponent and bring them down to the ground. This maneuver tripped the massive Big Show, causing him to fall flat on his back.
Well, Steve Blackman, he was laying on his back on the floor. I mean, just laying on his back. And Big Show walked up in front of him and said something to him. And Steve told him not to stand over him or something like that. But I saw Steve Blackman lay on his back, took both of his feet, hooked Big Show, and took him down. He never got up off the floor.
Realizing the capabilities of someone who could trip him so effortlessly, Big Show wisely chose to move away and give Blackman his space. Today's video is brought to you by Rocket Money. Tired of losing track of your finances?
Hey yo!
All-in-one financial assistant. Rocket Money is the personal finance app that helps. Now back to the video.
Sponsor block. What the hell?
Sheamus has had the gimmick of a tough guy with a formidable physique, weighing in at 270 pounds, so one would naturally expect him to hold his own in a fight. However, an incident in 2014 at a Raw event in Albany, New York suggests otherwise. Sin Cara was in the training room being attended to by one of the physicians. When all the trainers were occupied, the big Irishman walked in and remarked that Sin Cara should leave because he was more important to the company. Sin Cara didn't take kindly to this comment and confronted Sheamus. He swept Sheamus off his feet and started to wail on him before they were broken up. In another altercation involving Sin Cara, there was a real fight between WWE stars Chris Jericho and Sin Cara in Glasgow, Scotland. Reportedly, Sin Cara was being noisy and disruptive on the tour bus following a WWE show when Chris Jericho intervened and asked him to quiet down. This led to a verbal exchange which quickly escalated into a physical altercation. During the scuffle, Jericho allegedly bit Sin Cara's finger. After the fight was broken up, Sin Cara was removed from the bus. Following the incident, Jericho humorously posted pictures of his swollen eye on Instagram, attributing the injury to bath salts. While the notion of a physical altercation between a man and a woman might initially raise concerns, this particular incident unfolded quite differently. Essentially, Eve Torres and Matt Hardy were both getting a bit tipsy and decided to start play wrestling. Things escalated when Hardy accidentally gave Torres a black eye. In response, Torres' defensive instinct kicked in, and she decided to try out a rear naked chokehold on Hardy, as she had just started training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu a few months prior. The move worked brilliantly, and Hardy was literally put to sleep by the former Diva's submission hold. It's worth noting at this point, Torres wasn't even an active performer, but just a backstage interviewer. At SummerSlam 2016, the main event featured an unexpected end with Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton. In a familiar scenario, Lesnar dominated Orton for much of the match. The climax turned particularly intense when Lesnar's elbows caused Orton to bleed profusely. Believing Lesnar had deviated from the script and possibly taken liberties with Orton, Jericho confronted him after the match. Jericho stood nose to nose with the former UFC heavyweight champion and refused to back down. It took the intervention of Vince McMahon and others to defuse the situation and calm Jericho down. In the end, Jericho's ability to confront Lesnar and keep his composure was seen as a victory in itself.
He was basically like just butchering him with elbows to the head, and I didn't know if it was planned or not. Elbows to the side of the head can kill you. I remember just looking at him and it's like, if he hits me, I'm gonna bite his nose off. Vince got involved, and that's kind of, he got involved and basically broke it up.
When wrestlers spend the majority of the year on the road together, tensions can inevitably escalate amongst colleagues. This was precisely the case for Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels, whose strained relationship erupted into a physical altercation in a hotel. The exact trigger for the brawl remains unclear, although rumors suggest Roddy Piper may have played a provocative role in instigating the conflict between them. The altercation left both Jannetty and Michaels bruised and battered, prompting hotel staff to call the police. As officers arrived to intervene, the unexpected arrival of Macho Man Randy Savage added a twist to the situation. Savage reportedly convinced the police that the fight was staged as part of a wrestling storyline, an explanation that surprisingly worked. After signing a few autographs, Savage's intervention led the police to leave without further action. Despite this, Michaels and Jannetty, visibly battered from the fight, were both sidelined by WWE for approximately a month as a disciplinary measure. In late 1992, Nails was swiftly released from the WWF following a violent altercation with Vince McMahon. The conflict arose from a financial dispute, when Nails believed he was being underpaid for his match against Virgil at that year's SummerSlam. The argument escalated when Nails advanced on McMahon, knocking him off his chair and attempting to strangle him.
What was your mentality going into that locker room approaching Vince McMahon?
Well, I just wanted to discuss the contract and basically the aspect that he owed me money and I wanted to get paid for the work.
The incident was corroborated by reports from Bret Hart and Bruce Pritchard, who confirmed the key details. After being separated, Nails' tenure with the company ended abruptly. The physical confrontation was just the beginning, as the ensuing legal battles became even more contentious. Nails accused McMahon of sexual assault and extortion, charges that were eventually dismissed.
Meanwhile, Kevin goes right outside and there was a payphone. He dials 911 and he talked to the police and he says, yes, he says, I want to report a sexual attack on me by Vince McMahon.
The animosity reached a fever pitch with Nails claiming McMahon had arranged for his murder. According to Hardcore Holly's autobiography, an incident involving Bradshaw and Steve Blackman unfolded at an airport. Allegedly, Bradshaw, intoxicated from a night of drinking, thought it would be amusing to playfully pat Blackman's rear end. Blackman warned him to stop, but Bradshaw persisted, pushing the boundaries until Blackman responded with a sharp backhanded jab. Despite Bradshaw being drunk, Blackman continued to land precise strikes while Bradshaw struggled to retaliate. At one point, Blackman attempted to trip Bradshaw, but his leg became entangled in a bag handle, potentially saving Bradshaw from further physical harm. Scott Steiner and DDP already had issues with each other, but things escalated when Kimberly Page, DDP's wife, found a drug backstage and reported it to WCW management, implicating Tammy Sitch. Steiner wasn't happy with Kimberly's report and reportedly chased her out of the arena, leading to her never appearing on WCW TV again. Steiner then targeted DDP in an unscripted live promo, insulting him.
Why don't you try to convince Diamond Dallas Page to get a sex change so he has enough balls to come out here and face me?
DDP, watching backstage, was furious and confronted Steiner after the segment. Words were exchanged and DDP threw the first punch. They clinched and Steiner put Page in a headlock. Despite attempts to separate them, Steiner broke free, suplexed Page, and attempted to gouge his eyes out. DDP then bit Steiner's hand to get him off, and the fight ended with both men bloodied. Steiner later admitted in an interview that he was trying to rip DDP's eye out. Security intervened and Steiner was taken away. Due to Page's friendship with Eric Bischoff, the situation was eventually resolved. Despite the altercation, they worked professionally together in a match a few months later. DDP even mentioned that they're on good terms now and even became friends. By the mid-1990s, Eddie Guerrero and Road Warrior Hawk had a backstage altercation. This incident took place when Guerrero and Hawk were working in Japan. The trouble began after a night of partying at a bar, where Eddie, having had too much to drink, started looking for a fight. He encountered Road Warrior Hawk and began taunting him. Despite Hawk's warnings to back off, Eddie persisted, eventually provoking Hawk to the point of anger. Eddie, trying to assert himself, pushed Hawk away. Hawk didn't react immediately, but as soon as Eddie turned his back, Hawk struck him on the back of the head, causing Eddie to collapse. With Eddie on the ground, Hawk landed a few more punches to the back of his head, rendering him unconscious. Nearby wrestlers intervened and managed to calm Hawk down. Brad Armstrong, the brother of WWE referee Scott Armstrong, helped Eddie into a cab and took him back to their hotel. Eddie regained consciousness in his hotel room, only then realizing what had happened. The incident between Big Show and Great Khali, as recounted by Chris Jericho in his book, occurred in Arecibo, Puerto Rico. The conflict began when the Great Khali allegedly took one of Big Show's spots during a tag team match, which sparked Big Show's anger. During their altercation, a few punches were exchanged between Big Show and Khali. However, Big Show lost his balance and toppled over, allowing Khali to land on top of him. Following the incident, Big Show had to apologize to Great Khali in front of Vince McMahon, acknowledging his role in starting the fight. This incident demonstrated Khali's physical dominance over Big Show in that particular confrontation. Eric Bischoff and Ric Flair had long-standing
Ain't no way
issues
you
from
being
their time in
held by
WCW
Great
that carried
Khali,
over
bro.
to
Come on,
WWE.
Chief.
Their real-life animosity was so intense that WCW tried to monetize it with an on-screen feud. The tension between them stemmed from Flair requesting time off from Nitro for his son's wrestling tournament, which enraged Bischoff, who tried to sue Flair and threatened to bankrupt his family. This led to a toxic environment and ongoing personal drama. Years later, when Bischoff joined WWE, Flair's unresolved grudge resurfaced. One night, Flair, feeling provoked by Bischoff's perceived arrogance about a project, confronted him backstage. Despite Bischoff thinking their issues were in the past, Flair asked Arn Anderson to watch the door and then confronted Bischoff in a WWE office. Flair got aggressive, claiming that he hit Bischoff, while Bischoff denies being struck, and Sergeant Slaughter eventually came and broke up the altercation. Just days before Judgment Day, Batista and the WWE roster were filming a commercial for SummerSlam. During the shoot, Batista remarked about the shortage of opponents on SmackDown due to injuries, suggesting someone should join to work with him. Booker T, feeling this was a slight against the SmackDown roster, confronted Batista. The situation quickly escalated with heated exchanges, leading to a physical altercation between the two. Booker T ended up with a black eye, and Batista also showed signs of the scuffle. Looking back, it appeared to be a significant misunderstanding. Thankfully, both wrestlers apologized and reconciled after the incident. It was an unfortunate situation fueled by misinterpretations in the heat of the moment.
So the fight occurred. I got there afterward. I saw Booker T had a black eye and Batista was a little banged up. And, I just thought it was a big misunderstanding. I know they apologized afterward and made up.
Yeah, I got in a fight with a guy named Booker T, but it was the thing that really bothers me about that whole altercation is he started a fight with me when I was injured.
In 1997, during the Slamboree event, a six-man tag team match was scheduled as the main event. Roddy Piper and Kevin Nash on opposing sides clashed over the match's outcome due to their creative control clauses, leading to a stalemate. Piper's team was supposed to lose, a finish that both Piper and his partner Ric Flair found unreasonable. Eventually, a compromise was reached for the match finish, but during the bout, Piper deviated from the script, angering Nash and his NWO colleagues. Once the match concluded and the wrestlers returned backstage, tensions erupted. According to Piper's account, he was in the dressing room when Nash kicked the door open and began yelling at him. Piper responded by charging at Nash and knocking him down with a takedown. The commotion quickly drew nearby wrestlers who intervened and separated the two. The altercation ended with Nash being escorted out of the locker room, effectively putting an end to the scuffle. The Montreal Screwjob remains one of wrestling's most infamous moments. After Bret Hart controversially lost the WWF Championship to Shawn Michaels due to the Screwjob, an intense argument ensued, leading Hart to punch McMahon in the face, knocking him to the ground. According to reports, Vince allowed Bret to have one shot as a way of settling the situation. The two men were then immediately separated.
I allowed Bret to strike me. I had hoped that he wouldn't. I'd hoped that we could sit down and try and work things out as gentlemen. I was disappointed in Bret. When he hit me, I sustained a concussion as a result of it.
You deserve that. You screwed the man. You could have just... Oh, my God. Vince. This is why Vince is no longer running the company.
With the vision problems to this day.
The backstage altercation between Eddie Guerrero and Kurt Angle is a notable incident in WWE history. The conflict began after a match where Guerrero believed Angle had been too rough and deliberately stiffed him. Backstage, Guerrero, visibly angry, confronted Angle, accusing him of intentionally trying to hurt him during their match. Despite Angle's attempts to explain that he hadn't done anything wrong, Guerrero was convinced otherwise and became increasingly agitated. The situation quickly escalated when Guerrero, in his frustration, got in Angle's face, yelling and spitting. In response, Angle pushed Guerrero. This led Guerrero to attempt a double leg takedown, but Angle, utilizing his wrestling skills, countered by putting Guerrero in a front face lock, choking him. The confrontation confrontation was then broken up by The Big Show before it could go any further.
When we got backstage, Eddie was pissed and he was going crazy. He's like, you were freaking hurt me. You tried to hurt me. You were sniffing me in the ring. He started going crazy and he got my face and he's yelling and he's spitting. And so I pushed him. He tried to double leg me and I got him in a front face lock and started choking him out, and Big Show broke it up.
During a backstage confrontation between the Ultimate Warrior and Rick Rude, friction emerged because of Warrior's aggressive in-ring approach. Warrior had been delivering powerful clotheslines and executing intense slams on Rude during their match, which led to escalating tensions between them. Rude, known for his professional demeanor, approached Warrior and politely requested him to ease up during their matches. Warrior's arrogant response, "I don't have to, I'm the Ultimate Warrior," escalated the confrontation. In response, Rude swiftly delivered a single punch that knocked out Warrior, ending the altercation abruptly. This incident is another example where conflicts sometimes spill over from the ring to backstage interactions. As a result, Hulk Hogan refused to work with Rude in WWE or WCW, calling him unsafe in and out of the ring. Chavo Guerrero was known for standing up for himself, even against larger wrestlers. This reputation was solidified in late 2004 when he got into a backstage fight with The Big Show, an unexpected clash given their size difference. The confrontation occurred shortly after Big Show's return to WWE during a September 2004 episode of SmackDown. Tensions escalated due to alleged disrespectful comments made by Big Show, which led Chavo to call him fat and lazy. Big Show's response was immediate and physical, shoving Chavo and igniting a scuffle between the two. The altercation was brief, as other wrestlers quickly intervened and separated them. Despite the intensity of the confrontation, neither Big Show nor Chavo sustained any injuries, and the incident was resolved without further escalation. Buff Bagwell, transitioning from WCW to WWE, brought with him an outsider's attitude backstage, targeting fellow wrestlers. One of his frequent targets was Shane Helms, later known as the Hurricane, which eventually escalated into a physical altercation. During a training session designed to help WCW wrestlers adjust to WWE style, tensions between Bagwell and Helms came to a head. Bagwell allegedly belittled Helms, criticizing his size and physique, despite Helms being lighter. This continued until Bagwell reportedly slapped Helms, prompting the cruiserweight wrestler to stand up for himself. According to Bagwell, Helms threw a frozen water bottle that struck him in the head. Helms then allegedly followed up with punches to Bagwell's head before other wrestlers intervened to break up the fight. In contrast, Helms explained that he was training with an injured shoulder when Bagwell began verbally provoking him. Helms retaliated with a sharp verbal retort, which escalated into a physical confrontation where Bagwell allegedly struck him on the ear. In response, Helms admitted to throwing a water bottle, though he denied it was frozen, causing Bagwell to bleed. JBL is notorious for being one of the biggest bullies in WWE history, targeting not only the wrestlers, but also non-wrestling personalities such as announcers. During WWE's 2008 tribute to the Troops tour in Iraq, JBL spent much of the time heavily drunk. He focused his bullying efforts on announcers Lillian Garcia and Joey Styles. While Garcia was unable to defend herself, Styles stood up to JBL. In a heated confrontation, Styles landed a solid haymaker that knocked JBL. Humiliated and stripped of his pride, JBL spent the next show sulking in the locker room, not uttering a word. In one of the most recent backstage brawls, CM Punk stirred significant controversy at the post All Out 2022 media scrum. During this event, Punk made pointed comments about his personal issues with Colt Cabana and Hangman Adam Page, while also criticizing some of AEW's executive vice presidents, specifically hinting at Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks.
What did I ever do in this world to deserve an empty-headed fucking dumb fuck like Hangman Adam Page to go out on national television and fucking go into business for himself? And the fact that I have to sit up here because we have irresponsible people who call themselves EVPs and couldn't fucking manage a target, and they spread lies and bullshit and put into a media that I got somebody fired when I have.
Upon returning to the locker room, Punk was quickly confronted by the Elite members, who were reportedly accompanied by AEW's chief legal officer, Mega Parek, and talent relations head, Christopher Daniels. The situation rapidly escalated, with reports indicating that Punk threw the first punch. During the ensuing melee, backstage producer and longtime Punk confidant Ace Steel allegedly bit Omega, and Nick Jackson suffered an eye injury from a thrown chair. The aftermath of this confrontation saw suspensions handed out and threats of legal action, further dividing the AEW roster. The incident cast doubt on Punk's future with the company, with some suggesting that he might not be welcome back. In May 2002, following WWE's London Insurrection pay-per-view, the plane ride from hell became infamous in wrestling circles. Kurt Hennig, known for his jovial nature, reportedly triggered a scuffle by challenging Brock Lesnar to a wrestling match aboard the flight under the influence of alcohol. What began as a light-hearted dare quickly escalated into a serious altercation in the plane's aisle, posing a potential safety risk as they came dangerously close to an emergency exit. Other wrestlers and staff intervened swiftly to defuse the situation. However, the incident resulted in Hennig's release from the WWE due to his conduct, while Lesnar, due to his growing star status, faced minimal consequences.
Brock was like, really pissed off because Kurt kept throwing shit at him while he was sleeping. Brock's like, listen, you do it again, I'm going to fucking kill you. And you know what? You know what Kurt did? He did it again. I was so scared that Brock was going to kill Kurt Hennig on the airplane.
This incident remains a dark and memorable moment in wrestling history. Vince McMahon, Kurt Angle, and The Undertaker, three iconic figures in professional wrestling, found themselves in a misunderstanding situation. According to Kurt Angle's autobiography, Vince McMahon playfully took him down once backstage and boasted about it frequently afterward. Seeking revenge during a WWE plane ride, Angle tackled McMahon in the aisle, prompting McMahon to retaliate whenever possible. However, their antics on one occasion disturbed a sleeping Undertaker, who mistook their playful fight for a serious altercation, and reportedly choked Angle until he was unconscious. Once Undertaker realized they were joking, he apologized, attributing his actions to looking looking out for the company's best interests. Angle, respecting Undertaker's authority, refrained from any further retaliation. In 1996, tensions between Randy Savage and Road Warrior Hawk boiled over backstage during a New Japan show. Hawk claimed Savage disrespected his wife, prompting him to throw the first punch and ignite a scuffle. Savage's brother Lanny Poffo refuted these claims, stating Savage took the punch but remained focused on his match and later retaliated, leading to a brief brawl that was quickly halted. Years later, at a Kid Rock concert in Tampa, Florida, their feud reignited. Hawk attempted to reconcile with Savage, but Savage responded aggressively, sparking another brawl involving Stephanie Bellars and escalating into a chaotic fight with Hawk's wife. Security guards nearby failed to intervene, and Hawk subsequently sued Savage over his wife's alleged injuries, a legal battle that persisted until Hawk's death. In 1995, Paul Orndorff and Vader had a heated backstage confrontation that turned into a full-blown fight. The altercation began when Vader, returning late from a photo shoot, was reprimanded by an irate Paul Orndorff, who thought Vader had no valid reasons for his tardiness. Despite Vader explaining he was on an assignment from Eric Bischoff, tensions remained high. After a match, Vader was asked to do an interview, but requested time to change first. During this time, Orndorff continued to provoke him verbally. Unable to hold back any longer, Vader confronted Orndorff, leading to the infamous brawl. Reportedly, Vader struck Orndorff in the chest, knocking him down. Accounts differ on what happened next, but the most accepted version is that Orndorff got up and landed a powerful punch to Vader's face, knocking him down. Orndorff then stomped on Vader while he was on the ground, despite wearing sandals. The scuffle was eventually broken up by other wrestlers and personnel. CM Punk's backstage altercation with Jack Perry has been a major talking point in wrestling. The tension began on an episode of AEW Collision, where Perry wanted to perform a spot using real glass. Punk, leveraging his influence, urged Perry against it, citing safety concerns, despite Perry claiming to have prior approval. Perry believed Punk's refusal was due to his association with the Young Bucks, while Punk's side maintained it was purely for safety reasons, creating friction between them. The issue escalated during AEW All In, when Perry made a pointed comment to the camera about using real glass, clearly aimed at Punk.
Real glass! Don't cry me a river!
This provocation led to a backstage brawl where Punk reportedly put Perry in a chokehold. The incident almost resulted in Punk not competing and threatening to quit until Samoa Joe intervened. Both Punk and Perry were subsequently suspended pending an investigation, casting a shadow over a significant event for AEW. Ultimately, CM Punk was fired after the incident and later returned to WWE.
Today I terminated Phil Brooks, CM Punk, for cause. This stems from a backstage incident at AEW All In last Sunday.
I didn't punch anybody. I just choked somebody a little bit. Samoa Joe was there, told me to stop. I turned to Tony and I said, this place is a fucking joke, man. You're a clown, I quit.
Now if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out a similar video of 30 minutes of infamous wrestling receipts. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.
Alrighty. Let's just go about do it for this one, man. Most definitely. Some of these backstage brawls are crazy. Crazy backstage brawls. But anyways, though, let's just go about do it for this one, man. I will see you all in the next video today. Peace out. Alright.